Welcome. We are there. It's the last power rankings before the All-Star break. And I mentioned this in the review. I'm going to mention this here as well. Not doing a power rankings next week of this same nature because there's not enough games being played between now and next Saturday. A lot of teams with the week off, so this will be the last power rankings officially. Next week, I'm going to have some fun with the power rankings, do something a little bit different. Something that I'm sure everybody will agree about because that's what this is all about. This week's power rankings, there are 4 teams that stayed in the same spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams that only moved up or down one spot. So still the stability is there. There's one team that dropped dramatically, 2 teams that dropped dramatically, and 1 went up dramatically. Number 31, same spot as last week. And this is really bad fortunes for them. The Detroit Red Wings. They didn't have a bad week. They really didn't. And tomorrow they're in against the Vancouver Canucks. I could see them coming in and beating the Canucks because we're going into the break and there's weird, wacky things going on. That being said, Detroit, they're still challenged when it comes to being anywhere near a playoff spot or being anywhere near a threat. Number 30, down 1 spot from last week. These guys were 31. And that 12-game losing streak caused them to drop quite dramatically. And the two wins they've had since then moved them from 31 to 30. But I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with them from here before I'm going to start bumping them up. And again, who knows, between now and next Saturday, they might get bumped up, and I might not tell anybody because there won't be a Power Rankings video next week of the same nature. Number 29. I'll probably do one for Patreon as my guess. Number 29, dropping 2 spots from last week. Arizona. I know that says Phoenix, but it's Arizona. And the Coyotes with kind of an up and down week. I will say this, that there's some encouragement in that Darcy Kemper looks like he's the real deal between the pipes, and he may be able to help them ride things out for the rest of the year. But Arizona's definitely facing some challenges. Now, tomorrow they're in against the Toronto Maple Leafs. If they can beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, that would go a long way to improving their lot here. Number 28, up 2 spots from last week, Ottawa. They're playing well on the road, and they're in every game. And even though they lost tonight against St. Louis, I didn't bump them down for that. It was a decent game they played. And again, for Ottawa, they're a team that doesn't have anything to lose. It'll be interesting to see if they do give Duchesne and Stone extensions soon. Is that going to cause their play to drop, or is that going to cause their play to get better? Number 27, dropping 9 spots from last week. You know, the big market correction is Chicago. I had high hopes going into this week that Chicago would play well. Looking at their schedule, I thought, yeah, Chicago can do some damage here. Nope. Didn't happen. And Chicago is right back where they started. A team that's not making the playoffs. They don't look like they're going to get that close. Because now that a couple of teams that were struggling, Anaheim's one of them, but a couple of teams that were struggling looks like they're ready to start turning things around. Chicago's going to end up finding themselves out in the cold. Because while Anaheim's played really poorly for over a month, they played well enough before that it put Chicago behind the 8 ball. Number 26, same spot as last week, Florida Panthers. The Panthers in 26th, they had dropped due to that 7-game losing streak, and then the last couple of wins they've had have brought them right back up to 26th, and we'll see where they go from here, whether or not they're able to maintain that winning way that they've had over the last couple of games, or if it's just fool's gold. So, 26th is where they reside. 25th, same spot as last week, and these guys look like they might finally be moving up. They did. The LA Kings. They look like they might be good to get up and get beyond 25th overall, and maybe LA could make some noise, and then it just all falls apart. That 7-1 loss against Colorado, that was an embarrassing game today for LA, and it's a loss they really couldn't afford against a team that, if they were going to get back into the running, that was the kind of team that they have to beat, is one that's struggling and looks like they're ready to fall back. Number 24, moving up 4 spots from last week, is Philly. Flyers. This should just be. I should just be a picture of Carter Hart, shouldn't it? It is amazing what a difference it makes with Philadelphia having somebody in net that they believe in, and it seems like it's slowly turning the fortunes around for Philly, slowly in a way that they're not going to make the playoffs, but you may not need to sell that much. Carter Hart may very well be the goaltender that Ron Hextall needed to save his job, and that was part of what he tried to argue to save his job was we've already got him. I just need to wait until he's ready, and then they call him up when Hextall's fired, and if Hextall had called him up, who knows? Number 23, down one spot from last week, is the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey was ready to make a move up, and then that all kind of fell apart for them. New Jersey, I'm not. I'm not sold on New Jersey as being capable of pulling out of this muck they've been in. And the funny thing is, they have Mackenzie Blackwood, who's played well, and I could make the argument that he gives them some hope in net, the same as Carter Hart. But I don't see it. I just don't see it with them. So New Jersey dropped a spot. Moving up one spot from last week is St. Louis. So St. Louis, they just switched spots with New Jersey tonight. They beat Ottawa, and New Jersey lost this morning against the Anaheim Ducks. So they switched spots. St. Louis is playing that one up, one down game, which is frustrating for their fans. And what's going to be frustrating, as I've said, should the teams that have been struggling who are in the playoffs start picking it up in the West, it makes it more difficult for those outside the playoffs to continue making up ground. So for St. Louis, big win tonight. We'll see if they're able to maintain that. They have games in hand on teams in front of them. That's important, so we'll see where that goes. Number 21, moving up 3 spots from last week. Canucks. The Canucks are 2-0-2 in their homestand. They've got 2 more games left. They've got a game tomorrow against Detroit. The game against Detroit, it's important. It's important because they can't afford to lose a home game against the Red Wings as we get close to the All-Star break, as everybody calls it. I don't know why. Anyways, yeah. So the Canucks, they need that. They of course have fallen back out of the playoffs because of the Ducks and the Wild winning today. I knew they wouldn't stay in the playoffs, but they were in the playoffs last night, and it felt nice last night. Just now they're out again, so I knew that was coming. I was well aware, and I still don't see them as being there, but they're getting closer. And if Besser can start scoring again, and he had a goal and an assist last night, fingers crossed. Number 20, down 3 spots from last week, is Dallas. Now, Dallas was in for a bigger drop. I had Dallas lower than this before the win over Winnipeg. The loss at home against LA hurt them. And a loss at home against LA and just that losing streak in general means that winning over Winnipeg is a nice start, but I kind of want to see more before I'm going to start bumping Dallas up. So they're in 20th, and we'll see whether or not the win over the Jets manages to improve their fortunes at all. Number 19, moving up 2 spots from last week, New York Rangers. The Rangers slowly improving. They seem to be improving in incremental amounts. Zibanejad's on a pretty solid run. Zuccarello started scoring again. There's no coincidence that they've started winning and Zuccarello started scoring. And we'll see if they're able to maintain that. And if Lundqvist can maintain some kind of a turnaround so that they can actually get back into... Realistically, could they actually get back into the playoff hunt? Probably no. But at the very least, put some distance between themselves and some of the lower-rated teams in the East. Because Rangers fans, if they don't come out of this with Jack Hughes, probably not going to be overly happy. There are Rangers fans that want to see Jack Hughes as a member of the Rangers, and I get it. Because I think that big superstar forward is kind of what the Rangers need. And if they end up drafting 10th or 11th, probably not going to help them right away. Number 18, down 2 spots from last week. You know, Buffalo was set to probably stay in place. Probably would have stayed in place. And then they lost against the Canucks. And that was after the gutsy overtime win against the Flames. And now they lose against the Canucks. So Buffalo takes a bit of a drop again. And I say again because they were steady for 3 weeks at 16. I believe it was 3 weeks they were at 16. Now they take a step down. Their record, I think they've won 6 out of the last 21. It's been a rough go for them. So I'm not sure that Buffalo has what they need in order to actually make the playoffs. I don't. I don't know that they're going to be able to turn this around. A lot of this is going to depend on Eichel being able to kind of put the team on his back. It's not fair to one player to do that, but it kind of feels like that's how it's going to end up, that if they make the playoffs, Eichel's going to be the hero. 17, down 2 spots from last week as well. Carolina. Carolina's gone from, yeah, they're probably going to at least be in the hunt right till the end to, or not, kind of where Carolina's ended up. There's still a lot to like about the Carolina franchise and the direction some of their forwards are headed in, but on the whole, yeah, they're probably not going to go very far. And so they dropped the 2 spots. Now moving up 3 spots from last week is Edmonton. Edmonton showed a lot of fight. Lucic has started scoring finally. Puljujarvi seems to be getting off the snide as well. They've got Yamamoto back in the lineup. It looks like Edmonton's heading in the right direction. Now, they did lose against Calgary tonight, and Calgary looked like the better team. But Calgary is the better team. So, rather than penalize the Oilers so much, I've said, you know what, this just proves to me that Calgary belongs where they are on the rankings. To which Flames fans are like, where are we? You'll find out. You're not in the bottom 2 rows, I'll tell you that. But Edmonton, it feels like they're kind of headed in the right direction. It'll be interesting to see, coming out of this Battle of Alberta where they lose at home, where they go from here. Can Hitchcock maintain the momentum that they've shown over the last couple of weeks? Or does this mean they're due for another jump backwards? Number 15, moving up 5 spots from last week, Colorado. The Avalanche had a good week. And they haven't had a good week in a while, but they did. They had a decent week. And they managed to pass teams that did not have a great week. So for me, Colorado at this point, with the big win over LA, and I know it's LA, they're down here, right? But that 7-1 win, it's a matter of can they maintain momentum that they picked up from that game. Because there's a lot of teams that are kind of meandering. It's January. This is how you can tell it's January, because a lot of teams, all of a sudden you go, their record isn't very good over the last little while. What's going on? January is what's going on, and this is kind of what happens. And Colorado can take advantage of it. At number 14 and down 4 spots from last week. Pretty healthy drop for these guys, and they're relatively healthy. Nashville, they're in trouble. They are absolutely, you come out of a game against Florida, the Florida Panthers, you lose that one. They lost one earlier this week against Winnipeg. There definitely seems to be a problem in Nashville right now, and I'm not sure exactly where that is. Now, you could look at tonight's result and say, well, Johansson wasn't in the lineup. Okay, but I still get the feeling that there's something with Nashville that's just not quite there. And I don't know what part of their game is overall an issue, because they have great defense, they have solid forward depth, and their goaltending, it's Rinne and Saros. Rinne's numbers have been kind of pedestrian over the last couple of months. Is that a big part of it? Saros played tonight, so is it both? Anyways, it's an interesting conversation, and I don't think we're done having it yet. At 13, moving up 1 spot from last week, they are slowly nudging their way back up, is Minnesota. And the win over Columbus tonight, combined with the loss by Nashville against Florida, is why we're seeing them where we're seeing them. Otherwise, Minnesota's at 14, Nashville's probably at 12, if not for the loss against Florida. But that one, to me, is concerning. Minnesota playing relatively well. And you know, I understand they got shut out by the Ducks. The Ducks shut them out 3-0, and then they beat New Jersey. But for Minnesota, if you can sort of look past that and look at tonight's result where they beat Columbus, at least they bounced back. They didn't take that loss against the Ducks and then go into a funk. They came out, they bounced back tonight, and they played a really solid kind of a road game at home. Anyways, that's them at 13. At 12, down 7 spots. It's a massive drop for these guys. And the funny thing is, I was reading an article today on the Washington Capitals where they said, did the Stanley Cup hangover finally show up? No. This is just, it's middle of the season. It's those woes, that valley you go into. Washington's in it. It is really hard to maintain it for 82 games. And there's very few teams that can do it for a full 82 games. That's why records set by the Montreal Canadiens in 1977 still exist. because being able to maintain it for 82 games in this day and age of parity and of the amount of coaching that every team gets and all the video that you watch of the other team, all the pro scouting that goes on, it's really difficult to maintain it over an 82-game schedule. So I'm not worried about the Capitals. I think that, Kuznetsov's been dropped to the third line, so that'll be interesting to see if that lasts in tomorrow night's game. I know Kuznetsov's been kind of a lightning rod for some Caps fans, and we'll see if that continues, and whether or not Tom Wilson can really truly be the savior of the team, both offensively and in a tough man role. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Number 11, dropping 2 spots from last week. They wouldn't have dropped, but they kind of had to. The Bruins, I was encouraged by the win against St. Louis and disappointed with the loss to the Rangers enough that I dropped them to 11. Boston still looks like they're the playoffs. I can't see them missing the playoffs. That being said, it's the East. It's a lot harder to make the playoffs in the East, it would seem. But I still see them as being in the playoffs. I don't know that I see them getting passed around, though. I need to see more scoring from more of the depth guys. Some of that's been waking up lately, but I would need to see more of that. And, of course, tonight, the injury to Rask, we'll see what's going on there. Injuries do not influence where a team is on the chart. Only wins and losses. You can have a team that's got tons of injuries, and I don't give them the benefit, and I don't hurt them because of it. I think that's where power rankings get kind of silly. I know I would see on TSN that a team wins 3 games, but like a major star gets hurt, and they drop them in the power rankings, and I'd be like, why? Oh, because somebody got hurt? Well, no, they won every game, though. Why are you dropping them? So that's why I don't do that, because I just think it's silly. Number 10, Columbus. Columbus moves up this week. They moved up 1 spot. They had a challenging end to the week, which is too bad because they were up as high as, I believe it was 6th. Believe I had them at 6th at one point this week. Now they're back down at 10. And it's kind of fun how at the end of the week things kind of even out to where there's not really the crazy drops and rises other than market correction kind of things, or just losing streak, winning streak kind of thing. So yeah, Columbus up at 10. Number 9, moving up 4 spots from last week, and I've been getting a lot of asks on Twitter. There you are. The Montreal Canadiens sit at 9th. So they move up 4 spots from last week. I think that's the highest they've been this year. And they move up to 9th, even though they did lose against Philly tonight at home. And while that loss to Philly hurt them and dropped them down a spot, it's 1 game. Niemi was in net. I can kind of give them the benefit of the doubt for a few different reasons. But yeah, Montreal manages to move up 4 spots from last week. Number 8, Toronto's not going to move. Toronto doesn't move because of the fact that they beat Tampa, which was fantastic, and then they lost to Florida, which was less fantastic. So based on that yin and yang thing that happens, they end up being 8th again this week. So that's 2 weeks in a row that they're 8th place. Not bad. Probably not where where Toronto wants to be, but they're still in pretty good shape. They're still second. They're still the team that would have home ice between themselves and Boston in the first round. That would be pretty solid. Number 7. I kind of gave this away, didn't I? Dropping 3 spots from last week is Pittsburgh. The Penguins showing some cracks here. They barely win a game against Arizona. They lose the game tonight against Vegas. There's definitely some cracks in that armor. There's some things you look at with Pittsburgh and say, I don't know. Maybe. And for that reason, they dropped this week to 7th. But can they turn it around? Of course they can, because they're Pittsburgh. All right, so we're into the top row, and the top row is always where all the wonderful, fun debates come in. At number 6, big win tonight for Vegas, so they move up 1 spot from last week. And again, movement in the top 8 is usually pretty rare, and yet 1 team dropped way out and 1 went way up. So at number 6, Vegas. Vegas has had a really solid run, and that win over Pittsburgh absolutely meant they catapult ahead of Pittsburgh. At number 5, moving up 7 spots from where they were last week. Count them, 7. New York Islanders. Get that in there. The New York Islanders had a fantastic run this week, and they are right now in a position where, they're first in the division. They've gone on this great run to get there, and they look like they're for real. I did the video today on the Islanders and where they are and where they're going, and I'm a big fan of what's been going on with the Islanders because I like Robin Lehner. I like the Lehner story, and I like the idea of a team losing their best player. Although you could point out last year Barzal had more points than Tavares, but I digress. Losing their best player and coming out of it as the better team. So congratulations, Barry Trotz, on that one. Number 4, moving up 2 spots from last week, Winnipeg. The Jets had a solid week, and while they lose to Dallas, and I look at that one and I go, oh, all right, it could be easy to have a come down, especially after that win in Nashville that was so strong and so convincing. So I kind of give them a bit of a pass with that one on Dallas, kind of, sort of, because, again, I'm not doing this the same as I did before, where it's all reactionary and you see these crazy, wild swings and everything. So for me, Winnipeg right now, I have them at 4. I'll be watching them closely going into their next game, but right now I have them at 4. At number 3, same spot as last week, San Jose. Yeah, they got kind of spanked around by Tampa tonight, but you'll notice Tampa Bay isn't on the board yet, so I don't give them too much flack over that. Not to mention the fact that a lot of teams have been smacked around by Tampa this year, and San Jose didn't really give up at any point during the game, and we'll see where things end up for San Jose. But right now, they're in a pretty solid spot. They did lose a couple of points behind a team that you also haven't seen yet on the board. So numbers 2 and 1. We're down to Tampa and Calgary. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle these around and shuffle them around. Because here's the thing. So we got Tampa and Calgary. Right? Calgary and Tampa. The Flames had an excellent week. Tampa had a solid-ish week, but they did lose that game at home against Toronto. And they have looked a little more human lately, whereas the Flames look pretty deadly. Now, the Flames are in the West, Tampa's in the East, and there are people who are going to say, well, Tampa's in the East, and it's stronger competition. That being said, Tampa drops 1 spot this week. I'm pretty sure for the first time that I've ever done power rankings, the Calgary Flames are number 1. They belong there. I had decided tonight, I thought, if they beat the Oilers, I will leave them there. The Oilers have been number 1 on the power rankings for, I believe, 3 days. Keep in mind, I do update this every day. I'm still doing that. And the Flames definitely passed Tampa after the Tampa loss to Toronto. And they're still there. The Flames are there until they lose a game that I feel like they were outclassed, they were beaten in. And it's close. Between these two teams, it's close. Really, really close. The fact that Calgary's this good at this point in the season speaks volumes to what Bill Peters has been able to do, to what the Flames were able to do over the summer, where they raided the Carolina Hurricanes, a team you would not expect to lead to great success, and it worked. And it reminds me of when Vancouver raided the Blues, and they picked up guys like Ronning, Courtnall, Lamesso, and these were guys who, Courtnall was a known entity, but the other ones were sort of like, well, I guess they could turn out, but it's kind of mediocre. I don't know, Dan Quinn and Garth Butcher go the other way. It's probably kind of a soft. And then a year later, people realized it turned the Canucks around completely. And I get the feeling that adding Lindholm and Hanifin has kind of done the same thing for Calgary. So we'll see how long they can keep this up, but for right now, I have them in first. Watch the Islanders, though. They are absolutely tearing their way through the league, and they could find themselves as high as second next week if they keep, not next week, in 2 weeks. So remember, there won't be a power rankings next week because a lot of teams have the week off, and it's not fair for me to show teams getting bumped around when they're not playing. So it's hard enough when a team's had 5 days off and they bumped up or bumped down, and so next week power rankings won't get done. I'm still going to do them every day. I'll update them, but I'm not going to do a power rankings video next week. I'm going to do something different. So look forward to that next Saturday. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Let me know what you guys think as always. And hey, it's one man's opinion. I understand not everybody's going to agree, but I haven't been feeling the need to do any apology or explanation or anything like that with the power rankings since I changed the way I was doing them. So thank you guys so much for all your support and for all of that. And I did change the way I did them because of a lot of the feedback. And I said, you know what, I'm going to change it. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I'll talk to you again soon.